we got confirmation that Universal Studios bought land in Bedford. They're going to be wanting to keep this theme park running across the entire year. The two IPs that are almost a definite that we're going to see in this park would be... What's going on, guys? I hope you're all well. Welcome back to another video. It's no secret now that the Universal Great Britain project has been ramping up quite a bit. Obviously, for those of you that don't know, towards the end of last year, we got confirmation that Universal Studios bought land in Bedford, United Kingdom, to potentially build a new theme park. What I wanted to talk about today, however, is of course what we could be seeing within this park, because you know Universal's got such a massive IP library. So I thought today I'd go through a little bit of what I think could be coming to the Universal Great Britain park if it goes ahead. I'm going to preface this by saying we don't know 100% if it's going to go ahead or not. This could easily be just another project that's left on the cutting room floor. Hopefully not, and we're going to kind of be hypothesising that hopefully that's not the case in today's video, and we're going to start theorising on what we could potentially see at this park. So I think the best place to start off is kind of looking at what Universal have done recently, in recent years. Of course, they're a massive company. They've, issued building of loads of different parks across the world. But their most recent kind of baseline park was built in Beijing. I believe that was back in 2021 that opened. And that is kind of the most recent standard Universal theme park at the very least. Of course, we've got Universal Epic Universe opening in summer next year, which I'm hopefully going to go to when I head out to Florida next year. But of course, that is an expansion park more than it is a baseline Universal Studios park. So Beijing, realistically, is our kind of main reference point at the moment. And if you know anything about Universal parks across the world, sometimes they do clone rides. Obviously within Beijing, the most notable detail of that would be with the kind of refurbished and rethemed Hulk ride that they cloned and put into Universal Beijing for when it opened. They basically took the Hulk ride from Florida and elsewhere, and then they basically put it into Beijing, like the main coaster track, and then themed it to Transformers. So whether or not we could see things like that happening, and I'll get into what I think about that in just a second. But first of all, let's kind of talk about what kind of areas we could easily see within this theme park. Obviously, it's a big part of Universal parks across the world. You've got your Jurassic Park areas, your Harry Potter areas, your Minions areas, and things like that that obviously build and make up the entire theme park as a whole. Now, when we look at Universal Beijing, they really put an emphasis on that park, on kind of making these areas kind of closed off, which obviously is everyone's dream. You don't want to be in, a Jurassic Park area and then all of a sudden get a glimpse of the Minions from Despicable Me. Like, it takes away from the experience a little bit, obviously. And that seems to be something that Universal are carrying on across all of their parks at the minute, because the main thing they discussed with Universal Epic Universe was that they wanted to have these kind of entrance portals into the world so you feel immersed and you don't feel like you're in a theme park, which is ultimately the end goal for them. And even though it wasn't really specifically mentioned within that park, I do think that they're going to kind of take a similar effect with kind of having these proper enclosed themed areas, so that it immerses you even more. Now, in terms of what we could see theme-wise, there is obviously, like I said, a plethora of Universal IPs that we can kind of choose from here. My biggest guess, the two IPs that are almost a definite that we're going to see in this park would be Harry Potter and Jurassic Park. Now, obviously, Harry Potter, it is a massive part of British culture. It would be a very, very big missed opportunity if they did not put a Harry Potter area in this park. They've basically done it across all of their theme parks, so it would be a bit odd if they didn't, especially considering it's Britain. Jurassic Park is also in a very similar ballpark. Obviously, it's not set in Britain, but it is at pretty much nearly every baseline Universal park and every kind of main Universal attraction. Now, in terms of ones that are a little bit more obscure, I do think that we will probably see a Despicable Me themed area at this park, similarly to Universal Beijing. Obviously, for multiple reasons, it's obviously, number one, very popular. It's a huge IP for Universal, but also the fact that it gives something there for the kids to enjoy. Now, kind of getting on to a little bit more of the outlandish theories. Obviously, there may well be something that this park brings that other parks don't have. Obviously, not everything's going to be a clone, and not everything's going to be something that's carried over from another park. And I do think one kind of area that hasn't happened yet that I absolutely desperately want to is a Blumhouse themed area at the park. Now obviously, if you don't know much about Blumhouse, they are a horror film studio. Universal have collaborated with them not only within the film industry but also for Halloween Horror Nights quite a bit. We yet to see a Universal and Blumhouse attraction at a theme park other than obviously the haunted houses over at Halloween Horror Nights. So I think it would be a perfect opportunity to kind of bring a Blumhouse area to Universal Studios. We all know how terrible the weather is over here in the UK. It's absolutely abysmal. It's meant to be summer outside at the moment. It don't feel like summer. So having some indoor attractions, I think, is definitely something we could see. And I do think the Blumhouse attractions could very well fit within that kind of gap. Also kind of including some indoor attractions in here and kind of areas. I do think Super Nintendo World could easily come to this Universal Studios. Obviously this is quite a new addition to the Universal Park, so it's kind of hard to say whether they'd bring it over here, but it does seem to be kind of gaining a bit of popularity, so that could also potentially be another attraction that fills in some space. Okay then, so kind of moving away from the themed areas now, let's talk a little bit about what we could see going into these themed areas. What attractions, what roller coasters, whatever could we be seeing in these areas? Now, obviously there is no concrete answer as to what we could see within these themed areas. Obviously there are a few attractions that are pretty much a staple of their respective IPs. Of course, Harry Potter, Forbidden Journey. I would be extremely surprised if they did a Harry Potter area and they didn't include that within it. I think that would again be a very big missed opportunity. As to other Harry Potter attractions, my wishful thinking part of my brain is saying we would see Hagrid potentially. That would be an incredible coaster to have in the UK, and I would absolutely love to have that over here. Maybe over time they may expand that. Obviously, one thing to keep in mind with this park is they're going to be leaving a lot of room for expansion. So even though the kind of land looks really big at the moment, don't expect the park to be that big when it opens, because a lot of this land is going to be used to expand upon in later dates. So I do think Forbidden Journey will be the main kind of attraction within the Harry Potter area. I don't expect there to be anything kind of major, maybe other than a small family coaster in there to kind of, you know, pad out the space a little bit. A lot of that bigger stuff will probably come down the line at a later date. Now in terms of Jurassic Park, this is where it gets a little bit complicated. Now obviously Jurassic Park's got loads of different attractions across the Universal Studios theme parks. Most notably, one of the more recent ones to open was Velocicoaster over in Florida, which I'm desperately excited to get on within the next couple of years. But in addition to that, over in Universal Studios Beijing, we of course got Jurassic World Adventure. Now this looks like an absolutely phenomenal attraction. This is a dark ride, an indoor dark ride that has obviously gained a lot of praise since it opened, and it just looks like an absolutely incredible dark ride. The animatronics in there look absolutely top notch, and like I said earlier about kind of them weaving it around the weather patterns of the UK, I can see there being a lot more indoor attractions here than outdoor attractions, so I do think that a Jurassic Park dark ride at the very least is possible. Whether or not it's Jurassic World Adventure, I don't know. I really hope so, but I do think the more dark rides in this park, the better for Universal, because of course they're going to be wanting to keep this theme park running across the entire year, which no one in the UK theme park industry, to my knowledge, really does. Like, I think it would be a big you know, achievement to have a park in the UK that does run all year round. And I think the solution to that would be to have more dark rides. So I think a Jurassic World Adventure is definitely possible. And my God, if we get that over here, I would be absolutely ecstatic. Kind of carrying on this theme of roller coasters here, I don't think we'd get Velocicoaster over here. I think as much as I would love it to happen, I think it very much is a case of it's too good to be true. And like I said, you know, it's something they'll probably may leave for expansion later on down the line. I don't think they're going to go balls to the wall straight away with these areas. So I think the more likely option as the second attraction within the Jurassic Park area will be the River Ride Adventure. Obviously we got the updated versions of this over in Universal Studios Hollywood as well as Universal Studios Japan, and it looks absolutely incredible. Again, would be something that would be easier to operate throughout the entire year. My bet wouldn't be that Velocicoaster's in there from the offset. I think that could be something they add later on down the line, but I do think we will probably get the River Ride Adventure and potentially a dark ride, maybe even being a Jurassic World Adventure. So moving into talking a little bit now about cloned rides. Obviously there we just discussed a little bit about some of the Jurassic Park rides that could be cloned, as well as Forbidden Journey, but I do really think that one of the main things that we will see being cloned at this park is going to be Hulk. I think we will probably see a cloned version of Hulk at Universal Studios Great Britain, similarly to what we saw over in Universal Studios Beijing. Like I mentioned earlier, they did a massive Transformers area that included the Decepticoaster, which looked absolutely awesome. And to be honest, I could see that entire area coming over here. I didn't mention it in the last segment of the video where I was talking about the kind of themed areas, but I do think the addition of having, again, another dark ride in Transformers The Ride, as well as having a clone of the Hulk and having Decepticoaster, I think it would bring a massive draw to Universal Studios. Hulk is one of the most iconic coasters over in Florida, so I do think that having that at the UK would draw a lot of people in. We kind of have to have a big coaster here. It wouldn't be a Universal Studios without some form of coaster, and I think the Decepticoaster is pretty much as good as you're going to get in terms of kind of baseline attractions that we'll see at the park. Now in terms of the Minions area, I'm pretty confident we'll see Minions Mayhem, I believe it's called, maybe, I might be wrong there, but the simulated Minions attraction and Despicable Me attraction I think we will see, and I think we could also see the other area that obviously Universal had added into Beijing come to this park as well. Again, it's indoors. You're going to need a lot of indoor attractions here in the UK, so I definitely can see that Minions area from Beijing pretty much staying extremely similar. In terms of some horror attractions, now this is something I would really like to see at the park. Like I mentioned, Blumhouse would be an absolute gem to have here in the UK. You could easily have a Halloween attraction. You could have various other ones like The Exorcist. Like pretty much anything that Blumhouse has done and own the rights to is on the table here if they manage to get a collaboration done. And again, just imagine the atmosphere at Halloween Horror Nights over here in the UK in a Blumhouse area. Like, it would be absolutely incredible. Obviously that is something that Universal Vice President has kind of, you know, detailed. There will be a Halloween Horror Night at this park, so, you know, having a horror themed area would be absolutely fantastic. The other option in terms of a Halloween themed area would actually be a Universal Dark Universe area. Now, whether or not they do this, obviously this is a, you know, an attraction that's been featured within Universal Epic Universe over in Florida, which is obviously an expansion park to the Florida resort. Whether they would bring something like that into a baseline Universal park over here in the UK is kind of up in the air. Obviously it is a brand new attraction that we haven't seen before, and a brand new area that we haven't seen before, but I do think Blumhouse would also be a very unique attraction to have, as it's something that we haven't seen at any of the other parks and wouldn't have seen at any of the other parks even when Epic Universe opens, of course. So that is going to do it for today's video, guys. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you'd like to see me go a little bit more in depth with the Universal Studios Great Britain stuff, maybe I could do a video discussing kind of where we're at on the timeline on whether or not this could happen or not, and kind of discussing a little bit more into some of the concrete planning details, then definitely let me know down in the comments below. I really appreciate you guys' feedback, and definitely give me any other video ideas that you would like to see. So without further ado, guys, I hope you did enjoy, and I will see you guys later. See ya.